Into Three Minds, One Mike. It's a regular folk talk show podcast where we talk with regular folks about their opinions and perspectives on life and current events. With me always is Anthony and Radu, and we're glad that you tuned in. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Three Minds, One. Anthony is not able to join us today. He is moving, which is exciting for him. But he said if he was able to get some stuff done, he might jump on. So hopefully we'll see him later. Whatever. If not, it's just me and Radu today. And we're
trying to get this video done so I can post it today.
So it's pretty exciting that we're able to get these guests going on. And we do have a guest set up
Plus, I'm playing on my phone
as well. And we'll talk about that more later, because it does actually tie in.
You're playing hooky. You get to do whatever you want.
Do want to say the weekend's going pretty good.
Wow.
Nothing special going on. Radu, how are you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing all right.
Why else would you not
just
go?
enjoying the weekend, time off for work, watching some Netflix shows.
Since you get paid to go, right?
Yeah, it's a good weekend so far. Too bad it's going to be over soon. We're watching Bridgerton, if you believe it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I don't really know anything about it. So is it gay or what?
No.
What do you mean, like, you believe it? I don't know what you mean by that.
I don't know. It's a good show. Because, usually I watch, like, sci-fi shows and action movies. My wife got me into watching Bridgerton.
Don't blame her, dude. Don't blame her. You're pretty well-rounded when it comes to watching stuff.
Yeah,
it's okay. I like rom-coms too, dude. No worry. Nothing to be ashamed of.
Right?
I don't know.
Cool. Well, let's find out what our guest
thing
likes
might
to
be
watch
worth
on
$25 a
Netflix
month.
and other stuff. If you'd like to join me in welcoming Tony
$10 more than
to the
Canva,
show.
but
Tony, welcome.
I can get shorts out of it. I can do the editing.
Everybody doing. So, I kind of overheard your conversation about that show. That definitely not my cup of tea.
Bridgerton.
Yeah.
What's it about? I never even like.
It's like an old timey, like, I think it's a romantic novel type thing.
Oh, okay.
So, couple of ladies that I know of, they're all about that.
Okay, is it like the Shades of Grey thing?
Honestly, I don't know. I've seen it in passing, and it definitely seems to be soap opera-y.
Opus AI,
kind of. Yeah.
That sounds like a prejudgment.
That one doesn't
I bet
do
you if you watch
monthly. You have to pay by the year.
I don't know. Definitely not my cup of tea. I'm not gonna lie. I've given it an opportunity, but I've got up and went to go do some other stuff. So
okay, well, at least you gave it an opportunity. So
yeah,
174.
I can't say I hate it.
Comes out to 14.
Definitely not my cup of tea. No. I need some guns. If there were some guns or some bows and arrows or something like that, that may have been up my alley.
Did they have that in England?
I need to call.
They had like trebuchets and catapults and.
There was a time we weren't getting our mail.
Boiling oil.
And I'm pretty sure we haven't gotten all of it.
Yeah. So there was definitely some chaos.
There's some murdering going on.
Yeah, for sure.
So what's your cup of tea on Netflix then? What are some of your Netflix?
I did.
So, honestly, lately I haven't really been watching a lot of Netflix and stuff. I've been just way too busy to sit down and catch a show or even a movie, to be honest with you. No. Say it again.
Actually,
what do you do with your time then? If you're not a couch potato like 60% of the country.
No, I definitely not. Today I just got back from a hike. I had a little lady. We met out there and we had some lunch and hiked, 6 miles or something. That's the reason why I get a little suntan. I wasn't expecting to.
Wow. Yeah.
To be
holy cow.
To for the sun to affect me so much, but it did. And I had a hat too. I was like all geared up, but I like showing off the tattoos, so I paid for it in the end.
And that's weird. That's you're saying that because we're talking about getting the sunburn and suntan in the freaking beginning of March. Like this has been the craziest, warmest winter that we've had that I can remember. That this is
for sure.
Spring, all of February.
I was actually hiking in Utah. I don't know, January it was, and they were saying that the snowpack was pretty low. That it was barely anything anywhere. And then surprisingly, I was in Reno, and it like dumped like a foot of snow. And up in the mountains, I have to show you a picture. When I was up in the mountains, it was like the snow was so deep it was 2 times my height. Jeez. And I'm just a shy under 6 foot, so it was amazing, dude. I was like, what? Yeah, it was pretty insane. I'm like, what global warming?
Oh, because that's part of it too, right? Is the cold? Oh, it's so cold because
I don't really know. I'm not a scientist. I don't know anything about that kind of stuff, but it definitely, if you look back into our history, this is, aside from like the Younger Dryas, this is a whole bunch of this. And then here we are. If you go back even further, the climate has changed so much drastically. And how I kind of believe is, humanity is a natural phenomenon. Yet we can control our environment. We're still a natural phenomenon, and so volcanoes have drastically changed our environment, right? And at one time the volcanoes were so bad that it was like a liquid planet of nothing but magma, and so I just think it's the planet doing its thing. I don't. We can control it. We can probably do something. I mean, we did something with the ozone layer. We make changes to do that. And, I think we have the ability to, control our environment. But I don't necessarily think it's such a unnatural thing. That's just my opinion.
So climate change is just a normal part of Earth's existence.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Climate change is just a normal happenstance of Earth's existence. It's nothing we've created or brought new to the planet. But the argument is we've accelerated some of that climate change.
For sure. I mean, we're, producing emissions, but I mean, it's no different than the volcanoes that we're producing when they were all over the place, So, and like I said, I believe humanity is a natural phenomenon of this planet. I don't really think anything differently than that,
Some say we're a parasite on this planet.
Naturally. I don't know about parasite because I mean some of our, again, I'm not a scientist or anything, but we talk about mitochondria, and that's a bacteria, and we go into some of the archaea that was a long time ago. We have virus DNA, RNA that's within us, and so are we a parasite? I don't know about that, but we're definitely a smorgasbord.
I think more just the way we kind of act. You know what I mean? We kind of go into a place, especially people in power or whatnot, go into a place, take over resources, take over stuff, run out of stuff there, and then go to another place, do the same thing. That's what I meant. It's kind of parasite.
That's actually a really interesting thought there. So I happen to be, a few years back, I was in the Pecos Mountains, side of the San Diego, the Pecos River, and I was doing a hike up there. And I saw this anthill. And the anthill, was about, the colony, and the reason why I could tell, I'll get to it, was about, the diameter was 6 feet wide. And it's like, everything within that diameter was nothing but sand and gravel. And these ants had totally consumed everything within that whole circle, the whole place. It was gone. Ants are probably one of the species that probably competes with, humans and how many there are. And here, we talk about, it's just resource gathering. That's really it. And all of these resources in a roundabout way is taking the energy from the sun, right? And then placing it in our bodies so that we can be able to reproduce in life. And that's what they were doing, right? And they had totally decimated the land 6 feet around their colony, decimated it. We don't do that. We don't decimate the land. These ants did,
So why did they do that? Sorry if I got distracted by something. Why did they do that?
I just think there's no, I don't know. I don't know what the definition of like.
It was along lines of resource gathering, right?
They just consumed it. I mean, it was just, like I said, it was a barren wasteland. Barren for 6 feet all the way around this entrance to the colony. And that colony hill was actually pretty big. I mean, there were so many ants. I mean, I could just imagine if they were equal our size, what they would have done. And so if you want to say something that is, I don't really even think that's a parasite,
That's destroyer.
That's
a destroyer. I mean,
exactly. And ants typically do that. That's like, if you go and you look at some of their colonies and stuff, that's what they do. And so they just happen to be little bitty guys, and there was a time on this planet when they ruled the land.
Even over the roaches.
Yeah, exactly. They say that's what, the movie Cars, that's what they are. They're kind of like roaches and the exoskeleton. So, but, and so I actually don't think humans are as bad as we want to be portrayed in all reality. I think we have a huge capacity. I think the people who do the negative things get the press.
Absolutely.
And so then we're all bad. But I don't believe that. I think in general, I think we're now, if we were a spacefaring culture and we have the ability to go to another planet, we would be those people like Independence Day. That would be what we would do. Because I mean, why would we be spacefarings? Because we need to gather resources, and maybe we would then become those ants and stuff. Well,
that's why I did preface that with the people in power are the ones that are more parasitic, and that they do go to places, use up resources, and they wouldn't mind if they did decimate that area once they were done with it, and then move on to the next. That's what I mean. Like, it's, even with current stuff going on today, like land grabs and whatnot. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. Not like the everyday man. I'm not saying humanity. Okay, I guess I should have said humanity has the potential to be a parasite. And we see people in power that are kind of showing what that looks like, which ties into what you're saying about spacefaring. We're going to gather stuff because we're the ones in power than the whole planet, because we're the ones going to these other planets taking their shit.
Okay, so if you take when we started coming over here to the new world, right? When we started coming from France, we started coming from, those people weren't the best people, right? They were the ruffians. It's not, maybe the Pilgrims had some things that they were trying to escape certain things, so they were, immigrants in a way that were trying to escape prosecution. But a vast majority of them were not. They were not the good people, and that's what would end up being if we became a spacefaring culture. Is it wouldn't the initial we would not be would be our ruffian people. It would be the people that were lack of better word, weren't the best of the genes. They weren't, and that ultimately they would be
that doesn't go along with the picture we paint.
Say it again.
That doesn't go along with the picture we paint, though, because the spacefarers and the ones starting those things, they're like the elite. They're like the top.
No, I don't believe they would. The elites are not going to go first. They're going to make sure that the technology is perfected before they would go. It would be the expendables.
So they would send us. They would send the expendables to go do stuff for them.
Exactly.
Doing it.
Exactly.
So yeah, they're not going to. The people that are going to go, they're not going to go on their own free will if they're ruffians. They're going to go.
Well, I don't know that. I mean, can you imagine? I mean,
like, go conquer this land. Go take this land. You have orders. You have to do something, because they're not going to take somebody like us and be like, okay, hey, go to this country and whatever. You know what I mean? They're not going to leave it to our thing.
Yeah, eventually, exactly. And that's the reason why that we would be like the people in Independence Day, because it would be those individuals that would be going in the initial run of this.
Right. Well,
because space travel it's crazy. The distances in there. I mean, if you start out, you're not coming back.
By our technology, right? By what we have now.
I think technology in general, I just think it's the paradox of that is just, it's too much in my mind, that it's just, once you head out, bye.
What do you mean?
You're not coming back home. It's in the solar system, but even that's a huge amount of distance just for us to try and get to Mars.
Right. Well, what about Star Trek technology, sublight speed and all that stuff? I mean, if we were going to be spacefarers, wouldn't we need at least that kind of potential, or can we spacefarer on what we have right now?
Honestly, I don't know if we have the capabilities to go to, like, say, Alpha Centauri, the closest star to us. Right. And we don't even know if there's any planet over there that can sustain life as we know it, right? So we would make this one-way trip, that distance. It would be a generational ship that would go that direction. When we talk about, like, faster than light or even a third of light travel, stuff like that, the amount of energy to try and produce not only the get up and go, but also the stopping power. And then, because you're going a lot, you're going fast, right? You're going fast. And you run into something, even a little micrometeor, to be able to produce a deflector shield, the amount of power to do something like that. So, I mean, we're talking a lot of things. And I'm no scientist. I don't know how to do any of this. But I'm just, thinking like this through, like,
So we're pretty.
I don't know if it's possible, but here I am, and not even we can barely get ships to the moon or get them out into our orbits. I don't know.
So we got a long ways to go before we can get to that parasitic level.
But
And
that's the interesting point about I'm sorry. That's the interesting point about us. Most of our advancements, they happen. They're boom, boom. And 100 years we had the plane, and then all of a sudden 60 years we're up in 50 years we're up in space. So our advancements are pretty quick. And I don't remember what the name of the guy is. How fast transistor chips, computer chips come out. I can't remember what the name of that theory is, but it's a lot of the reasons why, they predict when the singularity is going to happen based upon how fast. And right now, our technology is advancing at really fast pace. It's almost been an exponential rate, and that's what the singularity would be. Technology is when there's the beginning of indistinguishable between a machine and human nature. And you would have to be able to, be a first adapter of technology, or you'll get left behind like people who didn't know how to read.
Yeah, that's Moore's law, right?
Moore's law.
Yes, that's it.
And what is that exactly? Like
Moore's law? That's what I was just talking about.
The exponential growth caused by a singularity.
No. It's how fast we produce transistor chips. Like how fast does it take for? Oh gosh, I can't remember the exact wording of it, but I can't remember the exact wording of it. But in all reality, it's like what we're going through right now. We have AI, and we have all of the computer chips that are producing AI. And so then we're going to get to a point where we're starting to produce robots that are then making the chips to produce the robots, to then produce the chips. And then the next thing you know, we have a bunch of Cylons.
Terminator coming to life, right?
Right, exactly.
Every movie we've seen for the last 20 years shows that it's a bad idea. Yeah, let's do it.
But I just...
movies. That's not real.
Right. But, I grew up with a grandmother who was... he was a badass in a time that women weren't supposed to be badasses. And because of that, I got to experience technology at a really early age. Because she had a computer, and I was 5-6 years old. And so that was 77, 78. Wow.
Did it take up a whole room?
No, it had, I can't even remember what it was, or the name of it. It was a box very similar to that, binary. She had to do things to it to make it work. And then, which was kind of amazing. And so I've always had a love of technology. I always if I can load myself into the Matrix, I'll do that kind of thing.
Right. Especially knowing it's the Matrix and you can kind of Neo stuff in there.
I would totally be for it. And because ultimately, losing Albert Einstein, right, and losing that essence of who he was, and not being able to, Carl Sagan, Mozart, all of these masters, and then they're just gone. If we could be able to load them into someplace and to be able to still have that would be a tremendous resource for humanity. Not just listening to the music, but for whatever that is, to be able to compose that music still.
Right. Well, of course, we have some of those. I mean, some of the tech folks we got now, and I mean, Elon Musk is using some of that information. I don't know about him in general and his genius level. I heard it was pretty high, but he could just come across that way. I don't know. But we have geniuses now that, do the same things that the Einsteins did, and the ones that we had that are just going farther, and that's going more into the space stuff. And I think
for sure.
I think the space stuff is far more advanced than we even know right now. And I brought this up on a previous podcast.
Hell no.
When Trump was first elected, fucking 8 years ago, 10, however long ago it was, he created Space Force, and then we never heard nothing about it ever. There's shit going on. Elon Musk is all of a sudden in the White House for a second term. They're buddy, and he's shooting more crap into space than NASA ever has. So they actually have going on that we don't know about. People forget.
Ultimately, if you follow some of that kind of stuff, we've got a ship that goes back and forth, stays up there all the time. That's part of Space Force.
Right.
And we have other things that have been blown up there that, I don't really know what type of people they're called. They have some kind of name, but they watch that kind of stuff, and they do report on it. And I'm kind of eclectic when it comes to the information that I end up consuming. I guess ultimately entertainment like Netflix, I don't really watch a lot of that, but I do watch a number of different things. Like I know when the launches are, but I'm not a in-depth follower because I'm too busy trying to remodel a house or remodel an apartment community or something like
Living
that.
your
So
own
I'm,
life. Yeah.
so I'm not, a casual follower of those things.
Same here. I
But
hear bits and pieces and look up certain things here and there. And if it's like something like, no, that's a bunch of crap, and I look it up, I'm like, yeah, I thought so. Like, no, that's a bunch of crap. Look it up, like, oh, wow, that's
yeah.
okay. Let's look farther into that.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's nothing. Yeah, but let's do this. Since you brought it up, let's actually segue to that. Let's talk about your personal life. Let's see what's going on there. What do you do? I know you just said you remodel stuff. I've known you for a long. So let me do this too for the people out there that don't know. I've known Tony for a very long time, very, very long time. I first got into apartment maintenance with Tony and Chris. And Chris is actually going to be on next week. He's going to be our next guest on. So that's why I wanted to announce that with Tony, because I would never have met Chris if it wasn't for this guy right here. And I never would have gotten into apartment maintenance and learned the stuff I've learned and experienced some of the stuff I've experienced if it wasn't for this man right here. So Tony's going to give us some background on his knowledge, and he's been in building and remodeling and stuff for many, many moons. He knows his shit. So listen to what this guy's got to say about it.
Well, I don't know if I know my shit, but I've been around enough to know how to do some HVAC and some electrical, and ultimately what how it kind of started was my daughter was born, and I had to do something. I had to provide somehow, and what I did know is I had a strong back and had a fairly decent work ethic, and so I just started in the area that I knew I could do something in. And that happened to do with, construction and some others. I worked in retail a little bit, but that wasn't my forte. And I actually got into maintenance and a number of different things. Father-in-law at the time, he was a sign hanger, did neon. And so I kind of learned that. And then probably one of the most influential men in my life, his name was Jerry Fine, and he taught me a lot about electrical. If we get down to my work ethic, it's him. He's the one that really, taught me, hey, you're a man. You need to take care of your family and get your ass to work and work as much as you possibly can to make sure you provide a lifestyle that is appropriate for your family. And so I did maintenance for a long time, and then I got into the management side of it, and community manager and some other titles that came with that. And then I worked into where I was. Well, I did some one company, DSL, when we built all of those properties, and that got me a number of knowledge there. And then I went into like senior care and taking care of them. Ultimately, when it came to my management style, that is where I learned I learned most of it. And a lot of it had to do with the Department of Health. That they ran me through the ringer, but I own how I do things. They trained me really well. And, I had to fight them a couple times in court, and I won every time that we had to go do battle. So that's because, Tony doesn't get in trouble, and don't get Tony into trouble.
Right.
Kind of thing. So I make sure everything's pretty much taken care of. But along the way, in all of these different fields, I had a lot of building projects that happened. And so, I learned more and more and more of those, of building methods, right ways to do things, how things should be, and, just got a huge knowledge base on, dabbling in a whole bunch of things. And that's kind of the way I am anyways, like I was telling somebody today, when it comes to my knowledge, I'm very eclectic. I pull things from all over the place, and a lot of things interest me. And working with my hands has always been an interest for me, whether it's gardening or actually building something and putting something together. that's even systems, teams and people, and trying to put that all together and make it function really well. I'm in my groove when it comes to that kind of stuff. At this particular point in time, I am an ops director over New Mexico and Nevada. And I've got jobs in Reno, Las Vegas, Silver City, Santa Fe, Albuquerque. And, it's the kind of person I am. I'm if it pays, I make it rain. I'm a hunter, and I'm going to try and, make as much as I possibly can. And so this seems to be a pretty prosperous year, the way it's lining up. So I'm pretty excited, but it's taking some elbow grease to try and make it happen.
It's like a culmination of all your experiences is working. Like, obviously, everything we go through brings us to where we're at now, but everything you've learned over your career, it sounds like, from retail, maintenance, management, has made you equipped for this job that you're in right now. Like a natural progression almost to an ops manager, you said? An ops?
Yeah, it's operational director. It's, it's a fancy name that, the buck stops here. I better know what the hell I'm talking about. And making people do what I need them to do when it comes to a construction project, right? And, there are certain things, there's 100 ways to do things. Really, there's only one way to do it right. And, like the other day, and this is a small thing, this is just a teeny thing. And the customer I was working with wanted us to put in the window balances in a window. Well, none of us have the tool to properly do that on that team. They're just there to, do the basic stuff and not that. Now, could we have done it? Absolutely. But really the key component is the people who were on that team didn't have the capabilities. And so I didn't want them to install something they really didn't have the capabilities to do. Right. Let's go find the person who does. And because I don't want that window. If you install it wrong, that could come down on a little kid, and I don't want that. So let's get the right person, not asking somebody who knows how to, maybe do some plumbing or maybe do some electrical or change an outlet or do some painting, do that. That's not the appropriate tool,
And a window installer to come in and do it.
Yeah, exactly. That's just what they do. And so, I said, I won't, this team will not do that. If you want me to hire somebody to do that, sure, no problem. But I'm not, these people here will not do it. And because for that simple fact, I don't want that window to come down on some kid, and I'm going to feel terrible for that.
So let me ask you this, because this is something I learned pretty early on in maintenance myself. And it wasn't until maintenance that I learned it. And it's mostly because the relationship with the residents and whatnot, because you're operating in a place where they work, they live, and that's your job and that's their home.
Right.
But CYA, I mean, that has to be the biggest lesson I ever learned in maintenance, and carried on through everything I've been through since. But
yeah,
did you learn that prior to that, or like when did you? Because it sounds like, I mean, that's why you said don't get Tony in trouble, because you won't, because Tony's pretty good at CYA. I want to know when you really found the importance of that in your life. And just in case nobody knows, cover your ass. That's what it means. CYA. But yeah.
Honestly, I've managed people a lot in my life, and I've had situations that have come up that I've had to protect myself against. And so it's now a mantra that I tell people: Tony doesn't get in trouble, and don't get Tony in trouble. But that doesn't mean lie, okay? Because lying, I'm not a liar. I've lied in my life. I'm a human. I've stretched the truth. I've lied in my life, but I'm not a liar. And so the truth is the truth, and it's always revealed. It doesn't matter. It always comes out. And so mistakes happen. Let's talk about that. Let's make sure that, it's going to be however we need it to be. But the truth is the truth, and mistakes happen. What I don't want to have happen is this is the perceived truth, and that's not really the truth, because I can stand on the truth. I can, hey, this is just, there's protocols that are meant within all industries it's the reason why we have a company. I mean, every company has a division called risk management, right? Because it happens, right? And so it's mitigating and trying to make sure that to reduce that. But how do you cover your ass? You do it right. That's the bottom line. And when, there's a difference between being honest and being transparent. Being honest is when you get the question asked of you. You have to be honest then. Transparency is stating the facts before the question is asked. And so I like living in a world of transparency. Like I like to have this out in the open because then I don't have to look over my shoulder. I don't have to think about all of these things. And that's really the basis of Cover Your Ass, is living in that world of transparency.
I agree 100%. Because if you follow the rules, then the rules are going to be there to back you up. If you do what you're supposed to do, then it's going to be there. And that's the way it was. And I saw so many people get in trouble in maintenance, dude, in apartments. You know what I mean? And it's like, come on, man. This is like, and a lot of it's no-brainer stuff. It's nothing special. And it's not even special just to the apartment business or anything. It's any business. So it's just it's really interesting, dude. And it's really fun. So
I was talking to we were talking about this job, and we were debating the contingency. And he asked me, he goes, should I just do the whole contingency? I don't know if I feel okay doing this. And I told him, I said, well, in business, we're not talking about morals, we're talking about ethics. And I told him, I said, so a contingency in this particular job is 10%. I said, we're not even meeting 10% on this contingency. And he goes, so in other words, we're okay. And I said, yes. I said, it has nothing to do with how you feel about it. It has to do with is that we need that contingency. It is ethically okay to have a slush fund in this budget for things to happen. In case shit happens, it's our insurance. He goes, well, what happens if we don't use it? And I said, well, I guess the team gets a bonus.
That's where his moral
exactly
compared to ethics. Okay, I see the difference. So I was going to ask, are they mutually exclusive? I mean, how does that work? But in this particular case, I could see that. Okay.
And so, but it wasn't a moral question. It was an ethics question. And we had a basis for how to answer that ethical question. And that was normal jobs like this take 10%. And we didn't even, the 10% would have been a significantly amount more, not a little, but like almost 2 times than what we took aside. And so ethically, we were okay. We weren't doing anything wrong ethically.
Was it morally wrong? It doesn't sound morally wrong either. I mean,
I didn't think
money
so.
That was allotted for this stuff.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
So,
but he was like, well, what happens when it's all done and we didn't use up that money? Well, we've proposed, they've signed the contract, and I know what's going to happen. I already do, because that's the reason why I made sure that money was there, because I do have a question within this job that will be exposed, and I don't want to. This is where I felt like we would get into the contingency money is for overruns. Something happens. So that way I don't have to change order the company. So if I run into something and I have this slush money, and I ethically I should not charge a change order to the customer because I have this money. That's what it's there for.
For that reason.
Correct. So in all reality, should I do that change order because it was above and beyond what the contract says? Well, I think that would be ethically wrong, because that's what I have the money for. That's where I feel we should. That would be the question. What do we do now that this was above and beyond what our contract stated? And my stance would be, that's the contingency. That's why. And what is the definition of contingency?
Backup plan.
Right, exactly.
So I guess the moral question would come in then, well, I allocated this 10% for contingencies for the oh shit money, because that's life. That's the way things work. And that gives you the power to make the call on the spot, not have to worry about the change order and the time and the communications.
Correct.
Because they're trusting you with this. Once everything is said and done, you got certain of that money left, you keep it. The immoral part would have been if you need more money to recharge the company, which is essentially what you just said. Right. So I'm just kind of like summarizing. So yeah, I guess I definitely see the difference then between moral and ethical decision on that. Yeah, everybody knows, everybody's in the know. That makes it ethical and moral. It's when it's shady and not transparent.
Correct.
That you're starting to get into some dangerous territory.
And the customer, because we met with the customer, the actual owner of this particular project, and he stated, I don't want a change order. Well, basically he's telling me you better make sure in your budget you have that contingency money in it. And so that's what I made sure. And we have some other monies that are kind of built into different areas that are, we could negotiate things to be able to, if we run into something, we kind of, made sure. But our labor number is actually pretty tight, and we're doing okay. And we've built some contingency within the labor that at the end, if we have plenty of that left over, then and we have some other things, you get done faster kind of thing. And so if that's the case, then it's not a lot in the whole scheme of the project because it's a $2 million project. But, it's going to be a nice bonus to that ownership group that is actually doing the work. That surprise, here you go, well done kind of thing,
Right.
And so we have that planned out as well. So,
but everybody knows about it. Even your employees.
And everybody knows about it. Like, it's all the way down to the actual labor contractor we're using for this. He goes, I would like to be able to take my team to dinner afterwards. And so it's in there in the cost sheet, that dinner. And, our owner and some other people that review our budget goes, well, what is this? We told them what it was, approved. So that's that transparency part. I don't have to explain anything. It's all there open in the front.
And everybody's clear on.
And so, it's a wonderful world to be in when it's stuff like that, because then there's not much I have to cover up, if you will.
So are you an employee, or are you like a partner with this company?
I am. Yeah, for sure.
Nice. And is it something like, do you want to do your own thing eventually, or
So my oldest boy and my youngest girl, they have their own company, and we kind of work with them. See, even there, I have some layers between them and myself. Lots of layers. I'm not the one that assigns them jobs. I'm not the one that approves their invoices. I have a layer above and below me that are reviewing their invoices, because I have to approve everybody's invoices. However, I have the project manager that approves it before it comes to me. I approve it, and then there's my boss basically approves it after me. And so we set up this because then nobody can sit there and say anything that Tony's doing something right. And I'm not, because I'm not doing anything. I'm just doing the job. And I tell them, hey, who do you want me to use on this job? Well, so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so is busy. Why don't you go ahead and use Oasis? And so then they're the ones that schedule it all. I'm not involved in it at all. I don't deal with any of that. And now, do I get my kids asking me questions? Sure. Hey, Dad, how do you think I should handle this? Well, this is what I would do in that particular case. But I'm Dad. I'm not Syntex operation director, Syntex operations director, they've sent invoices in, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is that's not an invoice, but like a change order or something else that they're doing. And I'm like, I go to the project manager, I'm like, well, what are they doing? This is something you need to, what are we getting for this? Because this isn't right. And so I kick it back. So, because at that particular time, I'm Tony, Syntex operations director, and I need to protect my company. Doesn't matter who they are, no matter what they're related to me or not. See, that's ethical.
It is. But it also plays into the dad, Tony, too, because you get to use that later on and be like, hey, you remember how that douchebag director guy pointed that back to you? Well, this is why. You get to use that as a learning moment. So
for sure. Cool. And I do that all the time. There was a couple of things that they sent to, they have a couple other customers that are actually really big players for them. And I asked them, I said, can you send me, because they didn't win a job. And I already felt like in the very beginning, and I tried to tell them, I said, you're not going to get this job because your pricing is way too high. I don't understand, what your mode of thinking is here. And so then I asked my friend, I said, can you send me those, the winning bids, and so that way they can see what's going on there. And so, yeah, I did use that as a teaching moment for them.
But it was after the fact. You didn't use it prior to help them with their bid.
I would never do something like that.
Right. So
yeah, I would never do something like that.
Ethical.
Yeah.
There's people that don't do that.
I wouldn't do that,
bro. Can you beat it? And they're like, yeah, we can beat it. And I'm like, all right, cool. So
well,
that's the difference.
Yeah. So I've had other subs go, hey, I've told them, I said, well, you're not going to win this job. This is just out. And I do it all the time. And a lot of it has to do with this. I'm trying to hit a budget too. I'm trying to I know I've got my ear to the ground. I know what this is going to cost. I know what the customer can absorb. And so I will tell them, if you don't hit this mark, you ain't getting the job, plain and simple. And I have told them that, like, if you don't meet this price, you ain't getting it. You ain't getting the job, period. And, they said, well, there's a couple of other contracts, and I knew he wasn't going to, they wanted a job in Santa Fe, and they weren't going to, nobody was going to, this is going to, give me a second here. The sun is getting it right in my face. They asked me, well, how much is he doing it for? And I said, well, this is the price. And I said, they go, well, I don't know if we can do that. And is that built in with travel time and all this? And I was like, yeah, this is what he said he could do it for. And I trust his pricing enough that if he was going to go there, he would be the person to go there. Now, because of how I run my margins and stuff, that cost that he gave me, that was who ended up winning the job in Santa Fe. And so then I told my ownership group, if we don't get a group of people in Santa Fe, then screw it. Let's back out and stop wasting our time, because we're not going to be able to compete. So either get me more jobs in Santa Fe, to hire somebody in Santa Fe and to get a team up there, or forget it. We're never gonna compete. Just never. It's impossible. And so they're making an effort to try and help me out in that particular case, because there's like 50 properties up there. So it's enough money to go around to people. And if I could get some clubhouse remodels, actually today I was hanging out with this one girl, told me about a project that's up there with a customer that we're already doing business with. And I was like, so I'm going to stick my salespeople to go do that job. That's a $2 million job. Like, go get it for me. And then I could do a whole bunch of things with that, in my labor and how my team is, and et cetera, et cetera. And then I could build from there. That's basically what I'm doing in Nevada, is getting a job that makes sense for us to be there, to then get more jobs. We started, I think it was the end of November, the beginning of December, with the idea that we were going to have some interiors there. And so we did a couple little small jobs. We kind of been doing little small jobs, but we had a job that was like, $500,000 up there. And that was enough to kind of keep operations there, but no real infrastructure. So I had to travel back and forth between there. Well, we slowly built it from there to now I've got a project manager there. I'm getting ready to get the interiors and a bunch of other things. Vegas, it's the same thing that's kind of happening right now. We're on the cusp of having some jobs that can anchor us in Vegas. Nice. And then from there, I've got an opportunity in Laughlin, and that's just how this goes. You just come in, make your money. If it grows, great. If it doesn't, you make in Silver City, that's what's going to happen. It's going to be a $2 million job in and out. 4 or 5 months, we're out of there, and probably never go back to Silver City. But that job potentially get us a job in TRC, and basically the same thing. Right. Go in, money grab it, get out. Yep. But like someplace like Vegas, I want to stay. I want to build something there. Plenty of opportunity there. And in Reno, they have a housing problem there. And because they built like the batteries for Tesla, or the databases for Tesla out there, they've got a whole, and everybody is coming over from the Sierra Mountains, and they got nowhere to live. So I was telling my ownership group recently, there's a bunch of old hotels out there. Let's go buy a bunch of them and turn them into apartment complexes and sell them. I think it'd be a tremendous amount of money potential out there. And that's that job in Santa Fe, is an old hotel that this particular organization is going to make affordable housing with. Well, that's right up our alley. We'd make that thing look beautiful.
That's pretty sick, man. Okay. Yeah. So when you're not working, what are you doing?
Grandbabies. I try to get with my grandbabies a lot. I love them quite a bit. And hike. I try to get out and hike, and I'm single and ready to mingle, so I try to mess around with the ladies too. So
there you go, viewers. If you want to get in touch with Tony, let me know. We'll make it happen.
So,
how many grandbabies you got?
I got 4 of them.
4? Aw.
Yeah.
Girls, mix.
Yeah, mixed. 2 girls, 2 boys, and
Nice.
I love them. They love me, and I ultimately, what I'd like to do is retire and spend all of my time with them. That's ultimately what I would like to do.
What's their age range?
4 to 1.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, one just turned 3.
That's awesome, man.
Oh.
That's good times, right? So is it better? You have how many kids you got? 4?
4
7,
kids too.
10? Okay.
Yeah.
So, raising kids, and now you get to be the grandpa. Is it everything it's cracked up to be? You get to spoil the hell out of them and send them home with the parents?
Dude, I love every minute of it. A lot of it has to do with is I had somebody ask me, and wrap it up in a sentence, what being a grandfather is. And ultimately what I told her was a warrior soul that gets to rest. And it's like pure joy and just being in the moment, because it's every moment is the moment, and so I can't get enough of that, man. It's they run to me. It's a glorious moment for me. So
babies and hiking and dating and work. Sounds like you got enough to keep you busy. Doesn't sound like you have too much downtime.
I was always kind of been that. I like filling my time up with stuff. I'm a man with purpose, so I try to do the things that I need to do, and ultimately I've had a lot of things that have been rough happen to me over the course of my life, but I've had a pretty kick-ass life, man. It's been a hell of a ride.
I'm sure it has. I know a few years that I've been on that ride with you, man. It was good times. We had fun times at the apartments.
Yeah.
One of the best jobs I ever had, and I've had.
Yeah, it was a good time. So it was a good time.
It really was. I was only there 6 months, dude, but it was a bomb. It was the best 6 months, dude. I had such a great time working there and getting to know everybody. And you and Chris, I mean, me and Chris became best friends for years and years, and I still consider him one of my best friends. So.
Yeah, actually, I just texted him the other day. I was like, "Hey, man, you want to be my wingman? I need a little assistance in a couple of places."
Well, he's the guy for it, man.
Yeah, for sure. That's the reason I reached out to him.
Back. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, it's and that's really the kind of crazy thing. Our friendship, we've had our ups and downs. It's we've always been there for each other, for sure.
Yeah, I would describe it, dude. And I'm not going to tell many stories, but I'm going to tell this one. And I describe you guys more of a brotherhood, more brothers than friends. But I remember working at the apartments, and these two guys were going at it like they were in a scuffle, right? Not physical or nothing, but yelling at each other. And I remember Tony pulls out, or Chris, one of them pulls out a cigarette and then offers it to the other one as he's yelling and screaming at him. And he just like it was nothing. And I was like, this is insane. And I even started laughing. They stopped fighting. I'm like, what the fuck? You guys are nuts. And they're sitting there yelling at each other and then offering a cigarette. And I was like, that's a brotherhood right there. That's a friendship.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was. I remember you looked at me like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, dude.
What's happening?
Like, I'm not used to that behavior. If I'm mad at you or someone's mad at me, they're not giving me nothing. They're giving me shit. You know what I mean? They're like, fuck you. I ain't giving you a cigarette. Smoke your own.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. It felt like the right thing to do.
No, I mean, knowing your guys' relationship, it was definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, brother, man, we're going to wind it down here. I do want to thank you for coming on. And
no problem, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, of course. And I would definitely love your permission to have you on again.
Yeah, for sure. Just let me know.
You got it, brother.
All right.
Well, thank you, Tony. Thank you, Radu. Until next time, viewers, this is 3 Minds, 1 Mike, and we'll see you next time.